I was stuck for 7 years. 7 years of training consistently, eating clean and showing up. And every single summer, the same reflection stared back at me. And the most frustrating part was that I was really trying. I genuinely could not work out what I was doing wrong. So this is that story. And if any part of this sounds familiar, then stick around, because the answer that took me 7 years to find might save you making the same mistakes. So I got into the gym for the same reason that a lot of guys do. I'd grown up pretty self-conscious and had a lot of comments thrown my way in secondary school, and that sits with you a lot longer than people realise. Around that time, I remember going to see Captain America: Winter Soldier and seeing Chris Evans come out of that Vita Rain chamber looking stacked. And there I was thinking, that's it. That's the physique I want. So I did what many of us did back then. I found a Captain America plan online and I hit the gym. And the first few years, they weren't really proper training. It was maybe once or twice a week with the lads, with poor form and zero nutrition, but it was something. And by 2015, I'd been going long enough to know my way around most pieces of kit, and the lifts, they were starting to show. So I got stronger, I built muscle, I could feel it in the fit of my shirts and on the weight of the bar. Progress was being felt more than it was seen, because I was still soft. I had muscle underneath, but it was hidden under body fat, and I didn't really understand that yet. I just thought I needed more time and it would just eventually pop. So I kept going. And after a few years, I became the gym guy amongst my group. Oh, that's Phil, he's the gym guy, they'd say, which sounded like a compliment. And in some ways it was for the physique that was building, but every time the shirt came off in summer, I looked the same. And that label started to sit uncomfortably with me because I didn't look like someone you'd associate with training 5 or 6 days a week. I knew I had muscle, but it was still soft mass. And for all the effort I was putting in, nothing visible was changing. And I genuinely couldn't understand what other guys were doing that I wasn't. I'd tried different programs to shock the system. I'd cut back on carbs after seeing all of these Men's Health front covers that I now know are myths. And it was that predicament where I was just putting all this effort in and nothing was changing. And I didn't understand what other guys were doing that I wasn't. And it turns out that this right here is where I was going wrong. I thought I ate clean, and I did by my own definition: fruit, veg, protein in every meal, mostly good choices, but portion control didn't exist. You know, I'd scoop pasta onto a plate until it was full, and if I finished it, I'd go back for more. And a single chicken breast, regardless of its size, was a single serving. I just ate until I was full, not until I was content. So overindulgence was common, especially at socials. And I just thought, because the majority of my food was good food, I needed as much of it as possible for the gains. And that was my weird logic, because I used to say things like, oh, I'm au naturel, because I'd never touched whey protein, as if that was something to be proud of. I genuinely believed you could out-train the diet. So I never questioned food, not once, for 7 years. And then COVID hit, 2020, and the gym shut. And I realized pretty quickly that training wasn't something that I did for the physique. It was something that I needed to stay level-headed. I trained at home with whatever I could put together. I had a few bits of the gym kit, but I improvised it in the garden. Bodyweight stuff with a backpack and bricks and flour. Anything that could just keep the routine going. So physique wasn't top of the list anymore. It just was something to keep me sane. And I grew to realize that weightlifting was for longevity, mobility, and resilience, not just this whole superficial thing about having a muscular physique with the girls. And a break in the regs gave us some rest, but when I look at this photo now, I think, well, maybe I was Captain Consistent. And then following year, March 2021, the gyms reopened. I remember standing in the kitchen and saying, this has to be the year. I'd been training 5 times a week for years, even managed it through lockdown. So effort was never the problem. And yet after all that, chasing this since I was a teenager, I was now at my heaviest, and I remember 90 kilograms, the heaviest I've ever been. I'd spent years believing I could figure it out alone, that I knew how to train, I knew how to eat, or at least I thought I did. And in reality, I was just stubborn, because once I'd reached this point, and with the gyms reopening, I said, this is it, I need a fresh start. So I signed up with a coach, and I gave it everything, the same effort I'd been giving it to myself. And 3 months in, I went from this to this. And 6 months later, here's what I looked like then. It was there. The physique was genuinely there for the first time. But I knew I had more in me. So the end of that year, my coach said to me, right, let's put you onto a bulk. And so I continued to build a bit more muscle. But then in January 2022, we found out we were expecting our first child. And the comments started coming in almost immediately. Say goodbye to the gym. You won't have time now. Make the most of it while you can. Oh, I remember when I had time. People were already writing it off for me. And the honest truth is that part of me believed them, because at no point then did I know better. To spend years trying to get the physique and then be told it was going to be lost for good was a bitter pill to swallow. It felt like a door was closing. So I signed up to a photo shoot in May as a last hurrah, just this one final push, 4 months to get the leanest I'd ever been before life would change forever. Now, when those photos came back, the feeling was indescribable. Years of effort finally visible. Like something sitting on your shoulders or your chest for years that is just lifted. And I want you to think about your version of that for a second. That thing you've been chasing, the question you can't quite answer, the result that just never seems to come. Well, imagine the moment when it finally does, when everything you've been putting in just suddenly shows up. Because that's the moment I want every person to work with to experience. That moment when everything just clicks into place. So, 7-year story short, pay attention to your diet, because mine didn't change. My food choices stayed exactly the same for that entire time. The only thing that changed was that I started weighing and tracking what I was already eating. That's it. No meal plan overhauls, no cutting out food groups, no extreme diets, just scales and honesty. 7 years of spinning wheels answered with a few months of structure. And the answer was the one thing that I refused to do because I thought I already knew enough of it. And the whole, oh, say goodbye to the gym once you're a dad thing, whatever. So I became a coach because I've lived every year of this story. I know what it feels like to be the gym guy whose body doesn't reflect the title. I know what it feels like to question your genetics, the program that you're doing, the effort that you're putting in. And I also know what it feels like to have the answer after years of guesswork. And that's what I do with the people I work with. I'm here to show you the one thing that you've been missing. So if any part of this video sounded like your story, drop a comment below, because I'd genuinely like to know where you are in it. And if you want to know more about working together, the link's in the description. Subscribe if you want more of this honest, no fluff content about training and nutrition for people who've already been at it for years and just can't understand why it isn't showing yet. I'll see you in the next one.